topics, trending topics, basically what's going on in the world. We're going to talk Diddy. Yesterday, somehow I got cut off. Some said I was buffering yesterday. So we are back. We're back. So I just got to find myself here. Like the videos, you guys come in. Thanks for being here and thanks for subscribing. Hold on one second. But definitely like the videos, you guys come in. It's going to take a few minutes for people to fall in, come into the live. I had ended one because I didn't like the picture. But come on in, like the video as you guys come in. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing. I'm wondering if there is another one there though. Hmm. Like the video as you guys come in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So just give me a minute. Let me see if I have to go out. We're gonna go ahead and do the disclaimer, and then that way you guys will see the disclaimer. Should I delete that one? I don't know. Hold on one second. Well, come on in, like the video. We're going to talk Diddy, what's going on, what's being talked about in the news, what everyone is conversating about. So, like the video. I'm going to do my disclaimer in a second. Let me go all the way out. Yeah, there's a lot of changes with YouTube. Yesterday, it kicked me out. Don't know why, but there I am. Okay, so now we're there. Okay, so I'm going to do my disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act. All comments are alleged, period. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarships, and research. Fair use is use permitted by a copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged, in our opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. Thanks for being here, everyone. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in again. Like yesterday, somehow, some way, I got cut out and I wasn't going to come back. I was almost towards the end of the show anyway. But we're going to get straight to the videos of what's being talked about in regards to Diddy. We might do some hot topics, trending topics of what's going on in the world. There is a lot going on, but we're going to go ahead and get into what's being talked about regards to Diddy. So come on in, like the video. It's going to take people a few minutes to come in, but we're going to get straight to the video, and then I might have to replay this one later as people come in later. But let's get straight to it. Come on in, like the video.
Remember back on July 2nd when Sean Diddy Combs was over the moon after a federal jury found him not guilty of racketeering and sex trafficking? I would have been over the moon too. I mean, being convicted only on those prostitution charges, that was considered a big win, given that the other charges could have jailed him for life. But that was July. And October is upon us in like less than an hour and a half. And October is a very different month, and I'm guessing a very different vibe. Because just a few hours ago, a federal judge decided that Diddy will not be getting a do-over on those prostitution charges, and he will not be able to have them tossed out either. The charges are technically called transportation for the purposes of prostitution, aka the Mann Act. And this Friday, Diddy's going to find out how much time he has to serve for being convicted of those charges. He could get a little, and he could get a lot. His lawyers are pushing for nothing more than the 14 months, right? Which is almost like time served, because I think he's been in jail a little over 12 months. But the feds are saying, are you kidding me? Are you effing kidding me? They're asking for more than 11 years. And they cite, quote, decades of unchecked violence and, quote, psychological, emotional, and physical damage that Combs has inflicted. Both sides have put forth letters from people in Diddy's past who either want him to serve some hard time or want him freed. But only one of those people was Diddy's girlfriend for more than a decade. And it was her lawsuit that opened the floodgates of the charges and all the allegations. And who was seen on hotel surveillance video being smashed to shit by an superstar. That would be Sean Combs in that chalk drawing there. Cassie Ventura was the star prosecution witness at Sean Combs' trial and wrote this to the judge, and I quote, "For 4 days in May, while 9 months pregnant with my son, I testified in front of a packed courtroom about the most traumatic and horrifying chapter in my life. I testified that from the age of 19, Sean Combs used violence, threats, substances, and control over my career to trap me in over a decade of abuse. He groomed me into performing repeated sex acts with hired male sex workers during multi-day freakoffs, which occurred nearly weekly. I was forced into lingerie and heels and told exactly how to look and plied with drugs and alcohol so he could control me like a puppet. These events were degrading and disgusting, leaving me with infections, illnesses, and days of physical and emotional exhaustion before he demanded it all over again. Sex acts became my full-time job, used as the only way to stay in his graces, his good graces. Cassie Ventura says that she has spent the past 7 years rebuilding her life, engaging in, quote, dozens of types of therapy, but still says she has, quote, nightmares and flashbacks on a regular basis. She says that she moved her entire family out of New York for fear that Sean Combs may have some retribution in mind. She told the judge that she hopes he pays for what he did, whether the jury believed her or not. And here's where she writes that. She says, it was only after actual video footage corroborated the exact words in my civil complaint that he issued an insincere apology on the internet. Thanks to the footage and my testimony, this is also something he will forever be associated with. For over a decade, Sean Combs made me feel powerless and unimportant, but my experience was real, horrific, and deserves to be considered. While the jury did not seem to understand or believe that I engaged in freakoffs because of the force and coercion the defendant used against me, I know that is the truth, and his sentence should reflect the reality of the evidence and my lived experience as a victim. We've reached out to Sean Combs and his team for comment, but we have not heard back. Again, the sentencing is on Friday, and oh yeah, we're going to be watching it.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and down.
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. What do you guys think about Cassie's statement? What do you think about Cassie's statement? Let me know in the comments. Like the video as you guys come in. Like the video as you guys come in. Thanks for being here, everyone. We're going to get straight to the next clip. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Continue to hit the like button as you guys come in.
Against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, he was found guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, but was found not guilty on the other charges, including racketeering, which would have carried a max sentence of life in prison. Here to explain a little bit more on that verdict yesterday and what Diddy could be. Verdict is in for the high-profile sex trafficking case against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. He was found guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, but was found not guilty on the other charges, including racketeering, which would have carried a max sentence of life in prison. Here to explain a little bit more on that verdict yesterday and what Diddy could be facing at his sentencing is 9 News legal expert Whitney Traylor back with us. Whitney, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, Whitney, as we just mentioned, Diddy was prosecuted on, or convicted, on those prostitution charges that carry a maximum of 20 years, 10 years each. How much time is he likely to serve, though?
Well, he's definitely not going to get the maximum, and there is the federal sentencing guidelines that the judge has to essentially comply with, and based on his criminal record, his criminal history, it's likely going to be maybe two to 3 years. I know the prosecution is asking for, I think, up to 61 months. The defense is suggesting maybe 2 years. And you have to consider he's also going to have his time served. So he's been incarcerated for 9-10 months. The sentencing hearing is going to be in October. So by the time that happens, it's going to be a year. And on these charges, remember, there's no minimum. So he could literally just get probation. Whereas on the racketeering, on the serious charges, which he was found not guilty, there was a minimum of 50 years. So this is, when you look at the big picture, it's a slap on the wrist.
I want to go back and ask you a question that we asked you yesterday. As far as California goes, could these be served concurrently? Do they have to be served consecutively?
Right. That's up to the judge. And the judge will look at a number of different factors. They'll take into account the victim statements, criminal history, all of his community ties, things like that. And so I think most experts are saying, yes, we're looking. I even heard an expert this morning that said, I think probation. I don't think that, but I think it will be on the lighter end. So maybe 2 years is probably what a lot of people are suggesting.
All right, interesting. Now, of course, the judge also ruled yesterday that he will remain in prison until that sentencing happens. Were you surprised by this?
Yeah, I really was surprised because he was facing some very serious charges that he was found not guilty on. So the charges that he, essentially this was a prostitution charge, which isn't still a crime, it's still a felony, but not quite as serious. And his team actually proposed that he post $1 million bond, that he only traveled within 4 states, he turned over his passport. I think his mother and his daughter's mother was also going to sign that bond. So it was a sort of an interesting proposal. And of course, the prosecution and other victims said, no, he's still terrorizing people, he's still not safe. and so the judge allows him to stay in, so I was a little surprised at that, but he has a few more months, and that will count towards his time served, toward whatever the sentence ultimately ends up being.
Okay, so talking about these two charges that he was convicted on, we heard a lot of critics after yesterday's the jurors came back with their verdict. A lot of angry people out there taking to social media who are outside the courthouse right there. What protections are there for these jurors who came to this decision now that they have to face the public?
Yeah, there's not necessarily a lot of protections for them. There's not much that the judge can do. Obviously, if somebody tries to commit crimes towards them, they can be prosecuted. But essentially, with the jury gets instructions, particularly while the trial was going on, regarding sequestration and not looking into it and that kind of thing. And different judges some judges allow jurors to go and talk. Some judges say you can't speak about it. In this case, and I think that's a disservice, as I was mentioning yesterday, because the lawyers actually benefit from that information.
In this case, the judge didn't say that they couldn't talk, but he did discourage them from talking.
Right, that's right. And, in these kind of high-profile cases, there's going to be a lot of pressure for people. They're going to be booked or interviews and that kind of thing. And I think they're going to be able to. I didn't see the judge's order specifically, but I think it was just a discouragement, if you will.
All right, well, Whitney, thank you for coming back. We appreciate it.
Yeah, because we really haven't heard anything from any of the jurors. So let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
We learned Sean Combs was denied being released from custody while he awaits sentencing. Today, the verdict came back. He was convicted of prostitution-related offenses. A jury acquitted him of sex trafficking and racketeering charges, which would have left him with a possible sentence of life in prison. The attorney representing his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, who shared emotional testimony, really difficult testimony, spoke after the verdict this morning.
The reaction is that we're pleased that he's finally been held responsible for 2 federal crimes, something that he's never faced in his life. He still faces substantial jail time. Of course, we would have liked to have seen a conviction on the sex crimes in RICO, but we understand beyond a reasonable doubt is a high standard.
Sentencing will now be held October 3rd. We'll continue our coverage with our 9 News legal analyst, Whitney Traylor. The jury came back. Well, yesterday we knew they were deadlocked, at least on the racketeering charge. They came back with this mixed verdict. Is that considered a victory for the defense or prosecution?
Oh, I think in this case it's unquestionably a victory for the defense. I mean, as you mentioned, what he was facing, potentially life with a minimum of a 15-year sentence on that racketeering and sex trafficking. The fact that he got out, even though these are still federal crimes, he could face up to 10 years on both of them on the maximum sentence, but we know he won't do that. It'll be a lesser time. This was a major victory, and it was really difficult because on the major charges, the one element of that is the coercion aspect, and the defense presented a plethora of text messages indicating that it wasn't coercion, that these ladies actually agreed to it. That was the evidence that was presented. With respect to the prostitution charge, all they had to show was that he paid folks, he brought folks from out of town into engage in these activities, and these male escorts testified that, yeah, we weren't coerced, we were paid thousands of dollars. So that prostitution charge was pretty easy to prove.
Well, it's interesting because the prosecution's case lasted for weeks, and then the defense, they didn't have that many witnesses. Sean Diddy Combs didn't testify in his defense.
Right.
It was real kind of short and sweet. Do you feel like they knew there really wasn't a case? Those RICO charges were going to be hard to prove from the beginning.
Yeah, the RICO charges were going to be tough to prove, but the fact that the defense didn't produce any witnesses doesn't mean they were lackadaisical about it, because they had the opportunity to cross-examine. And, when I do trials, my favorite part of the trial is cross-examination. And
Like the video. Please hit subscribe as you guys come in. Let's continue with the news and what's being talked about in regards to Diddy. I'm going to pull up a different picture. But like the video as you guys come in. Thanks for being here.
And the cross-examination, most lawyers will say, on direct, you want them to focus on the witness testifying. On cross, you actually want them to focus on you. It almost doesn't matter what the witness says. And so the fact that I think the prosecution called over 40 witnesses, and the defense was able to cross-examine each of them so that it was relevant to bring them back in their case in chief. And then, of course, Sean Combs not testifying. I'm not surprised at that at all, because you have a Fifth Amendment right to not self-incriminate. And a lot of times defendants don't want to testify because it can open the door. Cross-examination is brutal. Many times it can open the door to if you've had any other kind of criminal history. And you have to remember the prosecution has the burden of proof. So it's in some ways, and beyond a reasonable doubt, as that prosecutor just said, is a high burden to meet. And so when you're on the defense, you're really just picking at the prosecution's case. So I'm not surprised at that defense strategy, and obviously it worked because he won on these major charges.
It worked.
Yeah.
Well, you look at the jury, what they've gone through for the last few months, what they've listened to alone, and then you also have somebody that's extremely well known sitting right there, and all his family. His mom was there every day, and I mean, that's human nature plays a role, I think, sometimes into this too. But wow, that testimony from Cassie alone just was really compelling. So now today they said you got to stay in prison.
Yes. Now,
what does that mean?
So that means until his sentencing. So there was a hearing today that I think it actually may still be going on, but I do understand that the judge said, no, you can't be released. And so the defense was saying, hey, we'll post $1 million bond signed by him, his mother, I think one of his daughters, and they agreed to turn over the passport and only travel to 4 states. And the judge said no. And I thought, based on those charges, because he won on the more serious charges, I thought they would have actually said, yeah, he can get out, but no, he won't. So he's been in now for 10 months. The sentencing will be in October, so by the time he goes, he'll have already served a year, which will count towards his time. So he may only be facing 2 or 3 or 4 more years in jail.
Yeah, but it's not all over. We're getting a wrap, but you know, he's got what, 80 civil cases, so his legal troubles, and he was on Anthony's brain and all that stuff, but he's still got an uphill battle, at least when it comes
on the civil side. Yes, years of litigation for sure.
Yeah, he'll be back in court.
Yes.
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Like the video as you guys come in. What do you think about the news stating that he would have to stay in? Were you guys surprised that the judge denied?
Throw out Sean Diddy Combs' prostitution convictions. Now, the hip-hop producer is scheduled for sentencing next week after being convicted.
Hold on one second. Like the video as you guys come in. Like the video as you guys come in. So they're showing pictures of his attorney going to the courthouse. Do you think that his attorney is surprised that everything has been denied?
3 months after being convicted on prostitution charges, Sean Diddy Combs will be sentenced by a federal judge.
Like the video as you guys come in.
Has been in a New York prison for the last 13 months after a jury convicted him in July on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution under the Mann Act. The charge carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. He was acquitted on the more serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering. But attorneys tell me he likely won't hit the maximum sentence.
My guess is that Diddy will probably get between 2 and 4 years. And the reason is this, it's his first time offense. This type of crime is a non-violent, consensual crime. And even though it has up to 10 years, I think the judge is going to take into consideration the fact that the prosecution largely lost on the bigger claims and we reduced down to these 2 prostitution claims. And the fact that there's no prior convictions, I think he's going to get more than 14 months that the defense is recommending. The fact that Judge Subramanian didn't release him on bond when he was just convicted of the 2 Mann Act violations, which were by far and away the least serious charges.
How much time Diddy gets depends on a number of factors, including federal sentencing guidelines, whether or not he's been rehabilitated, and the nature of the crime he's been convicted of.
You know, Diddy's defense team is arguing, hey, he's a new man. He stopped drinking after 25 years. He's been teaching other inmates his skills. He's been a model inmate. He has a different outtake on life. And he's a new man, and he's going to do good things. Plus, he's already suffered. But certainly the prosecution is going to want as much time as possible. To be very honest, they're going to try to overcompensate for the loss. They're going to try to overcompensate for not having been able to successfully prosecute him on RICO and sex trafficking. So they're going to go for probably even more than the 4 to 5 years they initially thought.
The judge in this case will get recommendations from prosecutors, defense attorneys, and the probation office, who have spent the last months conducting their own fact-finding on sentencing.
The judge oftentimes will go with probation's recommendations because they're considered a more neutral party. The U.S. probation officer will talk to family members. They'll want to know, okay, if this person is on supervised release, if this person gets time served, what are they going to do out in the community? Do their family support? Do their financial support? What's their education? Obviously, Diddy is not your typical criminal defendant. He has almost unlimited financial means. He's got a lot of resources.
Ultimately, the judge will be the final decision maker, and he can very well sentence Diddy to time served, which means he could go home the same day. But once that sentence comes down, Diddy will likely still be on the road to appeal.
Like the video, Fair use reaction clip. Let me know how you guys feel. Are you surprised that Diddy was denied? Are you guys surprised? Let's continue fair use reaction clip.
What Diddy is saying doesn't stand. He also mentions the fact that Diddy's team kept leaning on at the time that people were being transported, the intention wasn't to have sex. Remember, it was like, oh, we just were inviting them to enjoy time with them. And if they decided to do that, that was their choice. The judge also he wasn't buying that as well. So the judge is saying that Diddy, the judge is saying that because of this, Diddy will have to go into sentencing, and he's not going to grant any of this whatsoever. And at the same time, like right before this letter came in, the prosecutors they began submitting their sentencing package. Now that sentencing package is almost 200 pages long, and in there they say Diddy should serve 11 years and 3 months, and also pay up to $500,000 in fines. And the reason why they're saying this is, well, first of all, with both of the Mann Act counts, he's looking at up to 20 years, 10 each, right, for each count. They're saying that, Diddy's team is trying to point to, and in the letters that they submitted from all these people, trying to point to him being a changed man and, him working on himself and wanting to continue to work on himself and abide by the law and all these things. And they point directly to the apology that Diddy issued after the Cassie beating video came out. And they also mentioned the fight that he got into with the woman who was listed as Jane while he was waiting for all of the trial stuff to begin, like in the midst of all that stuff, after he knew he was indicted. Now, I will say in that Jane situation, people are pointing out the fact that she got on the stand and said that she got physical with him first. But the prosecutors do use that point, and they say, he bust through 5 doors at this time. This man is not somebody who's going to look at the law and abide by it because he's just having power. There's also a letter from Cassie that was submitted yesterday, not only from her, but also her parents submitted a letter on the prosecution's behalf. Her ex-stylist and a really close friend, and also someone who was formerly a friend of Diddy's, a guy named Deontay Nash, and a few other people, some letters. And in Cassie's letter, she talks about a lot. One of the biggest things that she says is that she feels like her time on the stand shows why people don't really care for victims or care to protect victims. She says, the jury and all these people watched her testify about everything that happened to her, all of the beating, all of the bruises, all these things, and still, there were a lot of things that Diddy's not going to have to answer to in court. But the things that he will have to answer to, these 2 counts of the Mann Act, he should, and it is it's an injustice to allow him to serve a lesser sentence because of anything. She talks about still having nightmares over the situations that she's been through with Diddy. She talked a little bit about the suicide attempt that she talked about on the stand as well.
Was Cassie involved with some of those as well? Like some of those, I would say, prostitutes said that Cassie reached out to them and they had things with Cassie without Diddy did, right?
I just got a $4,000
Like the video, fair use, reaction clip. Like the video as you guys come in. Let's continue, fair use, reaction clip.
Cassie without Diddy did, right?
No, I don't remember anything without
asking.
I do wonder if Cassie's testimony would have been received differently if Diddy was actually on trial for the domestic violence we saw him administer to Cassie.
Yes.
Yeah, and now I will say though, like I think, for sure. I think what she's saying is that he wasn't. She doesn't directly say this, but I inferred from what I read that it's like the RICO charges didn't stick, right? But now you have these 2 Mann Act counts, and just because the bigger charges or what people view as the bigger charges didn't stick, let's not act like something wasn't done where I was put in fear and I was made to believe I had to do these things. And she says, for over a decade, Sean Combs made me feel powerless and unimportant. My experience was real and horrific, and that deserves to be considered. While the jury did not seem to understand or believe that I engaged in freakoffs because the force and coercion that the defendant used against me, I know that is the truth, and his sentence should reflect that. Should reflect the reality of the evidence and my lived experience as a victim. So that's her whole point. She says she's still having nightmares, and that she's scared that if he's able to come home anytime soon, that he can retaliate. She alleges that Diddy would retaliate against her or her family members because these are things that they've experienced before.
I mean, there's nobody who saw that video and can't understand where Cassie is coming from with that letter. But I do know, I bet you Diddy sits around sometimes and says, "What did I even pay Cassie for? What a waste of $30 million. She still testified against him. Right? Letters to keep him in. However much it was. I know sometimes he'd be like, what did I even pay her for?"
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's facts. Because the whole idea of the payment was so that she wouldn't go against him on court, right? And she wouldn't put out this lawsuit. But
please hit the subscribe button. There's about 97 in the building. Please hit the subscribe button, and thank you. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Please hit the subscribe button, and thank you. Continue to get the likes up, and thank you.
Speaking on our ass anyway. Man.
I was going to say, I mean, we don't got to get into that now because I don't even think it matters.
But on Cassie's side, I'm sure she's traumatized, and I'm sure she has to relive this each and every day. And every time somebody talks about it, it pops up on her feed, her page, her family member. Her kids are going to get to an age where they're going to start to see it. So yeah, I'm sure it's traumatizing.
And her letter to the judge, she said she had to relocate all of her family from New York, and that is because obviously she's scared about what she's scared about what might happen to her, and once anyone's able to make something happen. So
yeah, and people, I know people like to say, oh, well, she got paid, so she should be cool. That don't make that trauma go away. That don't make that fear.
That does not make that trauma and fear go away. And if you had to relocate your whole family, yesterday somebody was like, why didn't she donate the money? For what? She went through stuff. It was a toxic relationship, very toxic. And it wasn't just Cassie. Other women went through that too. Like the video. Fair use reaction clip.
The individual go away.
Yeah, no, she says she's still actively working every single day to be okay. Now, I will say, though, the decision of acquittal and, all of that, I've been saying for probably a week or so that the judge's attitude about all of that is going to kind of tell us what maybe where he's going to lean at sentencing-wise. I think that is looking bad for Diddy. I was thinking maybe, they would get closer to maybe like 2-3 years, but now I'm kind of like, I don't know if the judge really believes that, I think that the judge may believe that there's more time needed in this case for Diddy to really rehabilitate himself. But that's just my prediction. I don't know if you guys have any predictions of what you think is going to happen.
I was like, I don't want to bet with Lauren, because Lauren, she got top dog law in her back pocket. So she's probably sitting around talking to the top dog law attorney about what the hell's going on.
I would say this. I was thinking time served beforehand, but I don't think that anymore. I just from what you've been telling us when you go to court and the attitude of the judge and what they've been saying, I don't see time served.
And you have to realize the judge knows everything. There's a lot of stuff that's redacted from those legal documents. The judge has seen everything, heard everything.
I don't.
Me, I don't know. Yeah. What is
it? Yeah.
Is this on DraftKings? Is it on Prize Picks?
Like, it's probably on some. I don't know. But it's somewhere. But yeah. So sentencing happens on Friday. So we literally 2 days away from Diddy being sentenced.
What time?
10 a.m. Friday 10 a.m. Yes, I am. I'm going to be there. Yes, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
So his sentencing is on Friday, 10 a.m.
Yeah, I don't know what sentence Diddy is going to get, but I know one thing: it's nothing worse than being at the mercy of the people. It's nothing worse than being at the mercy of the system. But the reality of the situation is, Diddy put himself in this situation, so now you got to deal with the consequences of his actions.
Yeah, so we'll see what.
And that's what everybody's saying. Like the video. Fair use reaction clip. Everybody's talking about that. Does he regret how he treated women? Like the video as you guys come in. Fair use reaction clip.
Or fair cross reference, because the evidence presented at trial, boy, they trying to nail that young man to the cross. That ChatGPT letter I get.
Hold on.
I like what real quick. Find out how to win one of these for free. Based on the offense level 2, boy, they trying to nail that young man to the cross.
Like the video. Hold on 1 second.
Any case, boy, they trying to nail that young man to the cross. Boy, they. Two additional enhancements applied beyond those included by probation. These are the vulnerable victims enhancement and the obstruction of justice enhancement. Applying these enhancements to the range as calculated in the PSR will result in a guidelines range of 108 to 135 months imprisonment. The defendant urges the court, contrary to the guidelines and the facts, not to apply the threats or fear cross-reference or any enhancements without any basis in law. The defendant also asks the court to use multiple.
Hold on 1 second. Like the video as y'all come in. Like the video as y'all come in. Okay. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Fear that any person will be subject to death, serious bodily injury, or kidnapping. USSG 2G1, PC1, and at note 4, hereinafter, the threats or fear cross-reference, because the evidence presented at trial, including the support of the offensive body of conviction, plainly establishes that the defendant's conduct meets the definition. The court should apply the threats or fear cross-reference. Probation calculated the applicable guidelines range was 70 to 87 months imprisonment. Based on the offense level of 27 in the criminal history of category 1, and reaching this calculation, probation declined to apply the threats or fear cross-reference as described in a more detail below. The government submits that the law and facts call for application of the threats or fear cross-reference. However, even if the court follows probation's recommendation and does not apply the cross-reference, 2 additional enhancements apply beyond those included by probation. These are the vulnerable victims enhancement and the obstruction of justice enhancement. Applying these enhancements to the range as calculated in the PSR will result in a guidelines range of 108 to 135 months imprisonment. The defendant urges the court, contrary to the guidelines and the facts, not to apply the threats or fear cross-reference or any enhancements without any basis in law. The defendant also asked the court to use multiple guidelines manuals from different years to give him the benefit of the 0-point offender reduction and to give him acceptance of responsibility points despite his denials of guilt before, during the trial. And I told y'all this shit. I said, bro, I just told y'all this in the last video. The reasons discussed below, the court should adopt the government's guidelines calculation and reject the defendant's invitations to ignore the law and facts arriving at its calculation. The government's guidelines calculation, the parties in probation agree that the applicable guideline for the defendant's man act conviction is USSG 2G11 PSR 83, and that the defendant
Criminal history points, PSR 156. The government's guidelines calculation applying the 2024 guidelines manual and the threats or fear cross-reference is as follows. Pursuant to 3D12, because there are 2 counts with 2 separate victims, there are 2 groups, one for Ventura and one for Jay. God.
Like the video, like the video. So it continues. The judge is not playing. The judge is not playing. Like the video, like the video.
2 counts with 2 separate victims, there are 2 groups, one for Ventura and one for Jay. God. It's like basically this cat got 2 Ricos. How they acting right now? Pursuant to USSG 2G11C1, the threats or fear cross-reference applies to each group. Pursuant to USSG 2A3, A2, the base offense level is 30 for each group. Pursuant to USSG 2A3 1B 4B, because a victim sustained serious bodily injury, 2 levels are added to each group. Pursuant to USSG 318 1B1, because the defendant knew or should have known that a victim of the offense was a vulnerable victim, 2 levels are added to each group. I'm gonna push back on that one. Hell nah. I'm not doing that one. Pursuant to USSG 3B11, because the defendant was an organizer or leader and the criminal activity involved 5 or more criminal participants or was otherwise extensive, 4 levels are added to each group, but he wasn't found guilty of Rico, so that's a little odd, but whatever. Pursuant to USSG 13B1.1, because the defendant, I already said that, my bad. Because the defendant willfully obstructed or impeded or attempted to obstruct or impede the admission of justice with respect to the investigation and prosecution of counts 3 and 5, the obstructive conduct related to those counts and relevant conduct, 2 levels are added to each group, which was found guilty of, but whatever. And calculating the combined offense level pursuant to USSG 3D1.4A, Ventura and James groups each have the highest offense level with an offense level of 40, and each represents 1 unit. And pursuant to USSG 3D1.4, there are a total of 2 units, so 2 levels are added. Accordingly, the defendant's total offense level is 42. He is a criminal history category 1. This resulting guidelines range of 360 months to life imprisonment, which is capped out at 240 months imprisonment, the statutory maximum, for the reason described below in section 4B.2a. The court should apply the threats or fear cross-reference. If it does not, however, the government submits that the guidelines range should be calculated under 2024 guidelines manual as follows. Pursuant to USSG 2G1.1D, because counts 3 and 5 involve more than 1 victim, Chapter 3, Part D is applied as if the promoting of a commercial sex act with respect to each victim had been contained in a separate count of conviction. Application Note 1 defines victim for purpose of 2G1, meaning a person transported, persuaded, induced, enticed, or coerced to engage in or travel for the purpose of engaging in a commercial sex act, which it wasn't, he didn't benefit from this. So this is kind of stupid, but whatever. Or prohibited sexual conduct. Here, there are 5 victims, count 3, Ventura, Clayton Howard, a.k.a. Dave, Jules Theodore, Julian Sepp, a.k.a. L.A., Strip, and an unnamed Cowboys for Angels Escort, and 5 victims of count 5, Jane, Paul Arthur, Cabral Williams, a.k.a. ATL, a.k.a. Chef, Reggie, and Rico. Each of these victims is treated as a separate group as described in the PSR USSG 2G1.1. At Note 5 CPSR 86-45. Pursuant to USSG 2G1.1, the base offense level for each group is 14. Pursuant to USSG 2G1.1B1B, because the offense involved fraud or coercion, 4 levels are added to Ventura and James groups. Pursuant to USSG 381.1B1, because the defendant knew or that a victim of the offense was a vulnerable victim, 2 levels are added to Ventura and James groups, which I vehemently disagree with that, but whatever. Pursuant to USSG 3B1.1, because the defendant was an organizer or leader and the criminal activity involved 5 or more criminal participants or was otherwise extensive, 4 levels added to each group, which basically means the RICO, in other words, which y'all found him not guilty of because y'all tried it and y'all lost. And calculating pursuant to USSG 3C1.1, defendant willfully obstructed or impeded or attempted to obstruct or impede the admission of justice with respect to the investigation and prosecution of counts 3 and 5 and the obstructive conduct related to those counts and relevant conduct, 2 levels are added to each group. Yeah, but y'all wasn't able to find him guilty of none of this shit. So that's the crazy part. Unless they're trying to say that hell nah.
Like the video, like the video.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that. Let's get to the last one. And calculating the combined offense level pursuant to USSG 3D1.4A, Ventura and James groups each have the highest offense level with an offense level of 26, and each represents 1 unit. Pursuant to USSG 3D4A, 1 additional half unit is added for the remaining groups, which have an offense level of 20 because they are 5 to 8 levels less serious than Ventura and James groups. Pursuant to USSG 3D14, there are a total of 6 units, so 5 levels are added. This results in a total offense level of 31, and guidelines range of 108 to 135 months imprisonment. Yeah, I think Diddy needs to go ahead.
Like the video, like the video. That was the actual document that was released regards to Diddy. That was the document that was released in regards to Diddy.
Natural diamonds.
Like the video, like the video. Hit the subscribe button. There's about 183 in the building. If you're just now coming in, we're just doing an update in regards to what's going on in regards to Diddy in this case.
Over the moon too. I mean, being convicted only on those prostitution charges, that was considered a big win. Remember back on July 2nd, when Sean Diddy Combs was over the moon after a federal jury found him not guilty of racketeering and sex trafficking? I would have been over the moon too. I mean, being convicted only on those prostitution charges, that was considered a big win, given that the other charges could have jailed him for life. But that was July. And October is upon us in like less than an hour and a half. And October is a very different month, and I'm guessing a very different vibe. Because just a few hours ago, a federal judge decided that Diddy will not be getting a do-over on those prostitution charges, and he will not be able to have them tossed out either. The charges are technically called transportation for the purposes of prostitution, aka the Mann Act. And this Friday, Diddy's going to find out how much time he has to serve for being convicted of those charges. He could get a little, and he could get a lot. His lawyers are pushing for nothing more than the 14 months, right? Which is almost like time served, because I think he's been in jail a little over 12 months. But the feds are saying, are you kidding me? Are you effing kidding me? They're asking for more than 11 years. And they cite, quote, decades of unchecked violence and, quote, psychological, emotional, and physical damage that Combs has inflicted. Both sides have put forth letters from people in Diddy's past who either want him to serve some hard time or want him freed. But only one of those people was Diddy's girlfriend for more than a decade. And it was her lawsuit that opened the floodgates of the charges and all the allegations. And who was seen on hotel surveillance video being smashed to shit by an out-of-control superstar. That would be Sean Combs in that chalk drawing there. Cassie Ventura was the star prosecution witness at Sean Combs' trial and wrote this to the judge, and I quote, "For 4 days in May, while 9 months pregnant with my son, I testified in front of a packed courtroom about the most traumatic and horrifying chapter in my life. I testified that from the age of 19, Sean Combs used violence, threats, substances, and control over my career to trap me in over a decade of abuse. He groomed me into performing repeated sex acts with hired male sex workers during multi-day freakoffs, which occurred nearly weekly. I was forced into lingerie and heels and told exactly how to look and plied with drugs and alcohol so he could control me like a puppet. These events were degrading and disgusting, leaving me with infections, illnesses, and days of physical and emotional exhaustion before he demanded it all over again. Sex acts became my full-time job, used as the only way to stay in his graces, his good graces." Cassie Ventura says that she has spent the past 7 years rebuilding her life, engaging in, quote, dozens of types of therapy, but still says she has, quote, nightmares and flashbacks on a regular basis. She says that she moved her entire family out of New York for fear that Sean Combs may have some retribution in mind. She told the judge that she hopes he pays for what he did, whether the jury believed her or not. And here's where she writes that. She says, "It was only after actual video footage corroborated the exact words in my civil complaint that he issued an insincere apology on the internet. Thanks to the footage and my testimony, this is also something he will forever be associated with. For over a decade, Sean Combs made me feel powerless and unimportant, but my experience was real, horrific, and deserves to be considered. While the jury did not seem to understand or believe that I engaged in freakoffs because of the force and coercion the defendant used against me, I know that is the truth, and his sentence should reflect the reality of the evidence and my lived experience as a victim." We've reached out to Sean Combs and his team for comment, but we have not heard back. Again, the sentencing is on Friday, and oh yeah, we're going to be watching it.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download.
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. What do you guys think about what's being talked about regards to Cassie's statement and what she had to say? You got to remember,
in his first album in 17 years, his ex-girlfriend, R&B singer.
You got to remember, Cassie was to make a statement, and she did so.
Arrested on federal charges.
All right, so the question now that we are going to tackle, it's pretty basic. Once he's out, can Diddy's career recover? Let's talk about it with the editor-in-chief of Hip Hop Inquirer magazine. Dennis Byron is here, and entertainment host Holland Reed also joining us on this Friday night. Dennis, your thoughts? He'll be out maybe sooner than later. To what extent will others want to collaborate, or are staying clear? What do you see in your crystal ball for his career once he's out?
Like the video,
My
like the
question
video.
about collaboration is interesting. And the reason why I say that is I was in the courtroom pretty much every day watching the trial and seeing who came in and showed up at the courthouse. I don't think the collaboration, even on his side, made him want. But I think that with his children being in music, at least two of them, King Combs and one of his other children being in music, he might not be so interested in getting around the same people he's around prior to having these charges brought upon him. Will he be able to bounce back? Not like the Diddy of early 2000s or even the late 98, 97, but I think there's still some type of opportunity out there for him to do music or mentor others.
Alan, what's your take?
My take is this is going to be one major mountain for him to climb. This is going to be a moral pivot for him. This is going to be a PR tour from the gods if he can get back on track. The thing is, we all saw too much. We saw too much. Even though, like your previous guest said, he was not on trial for abuse or sexual assault or any of those things, but we saw it all. And unfortunately, that's something that is going to follow him for the rest of his life. We're talking about brand deals, festivals, events. I think the trust has been lost. It doesn't matter what he liked in the bedroom or what he liked behind closed doors or what have you. It all becomes that he used it in an abusive way to sustain power. He's been protected by his celebrity for so long. So I do think that at this time, if anything, he's going to probably try to be in control like he has done his entire career in his life. And that's probably him his own story, monetizing his own redemption story, maybe, his own documentaries. I just don't see him getting back in the good graces of those who he's hurt along the way because we absolutely saw too much. Now, we might have a younger generation that doesn't really know him or doesn't really care, but I think the people that either are loyal to him will stay loyal, but the people that saw what we saw during this entire trial are definitely keeping their hands off of him moving forward unless there is a miracle that comes down and he's got to do a complete moral pivot, I think.
Dennis, any chance he just goes away, stays by himself and sort of is done?
Okay, first off, I'm going to have to disagree with your guess. Mr. Combs has done a lot of good in the music industry. He's helped a lot of careers. If you've attended as many parties that I've attended that he's hosted, not freak-off parties, but regular parties, it was the who's who. The now president even attended his parties.
Allegedly. Can't confirm or deny. Please hit the subscribe button. There's about 136 in the building. Please hit the subscribe button. Thank you. And continue to hit the like button. Thank you.
Being in the room with him, he brings a certain energy. And I saw a lot in the trial, and I saw a lot that kind of dispelled some of the misinformation that was out there. So I think he'll bounce back. It won't be a rapid bounce back, but I think that with the marketing skills that he has and the team he puts around him, I think he'll be okay.
Holland, a final word?
I will agree and also disagree. I can play both sides of that coin. Yes, he did help a lot of people in his careers. Yes, he did bring a lot of people up in the industry with him. But what we saw was an abusive, drug-fueled, angry, unhinged CEO that used power, manipulation, coercion to get his way over decades, and it's been known for decades. I don't care how many wonderful, beautiful white parties that he had. He was doing a million other things behind closed doors that maybe just because you did not see it and you didn't go to them, that were happening and that affected people's lives for the rest of their lives. They will never be able to get over. So while I agree with you, he is definitely a mogul and a monumental. He's a monument in the music industry, a mogul in this industry. That does not negate his abuse and the harm that he has caused within the industry and people's lives as well.
All right, let's leave it there. I guess we're going to stick with us. Up next, what do we really know about these freak-offs?
Like the video, fair use reaction clip.
He's found guilty of these prostitution-related charges. And it's not. It is weird. The facts of this case are weird. And, when you look at the, I guess, quote, victims, the prostitutes, we're talking about, males like Sheree the Punisher Hayes coming in and being, flown to Los Angeles or wherever and going through this. He was on with us. And let's take a listen to what he said about what Sean Combs' behavior was like during the freak-offs.
He never partakes. He's always, for the most part, a great distance away. And almost all of his interactions was just directions in terms of visual cues, body positioning, a suggestion of maybe more oil. And if there was further suggestions, I didn't hear them because there was a routine. If they needed to have a conversation, he would stand up at times and just walk out of the room. And Ms. Ventura would take that as a cue, leave the room with him. They would have a brief conversation, be going for a period of time, and then she would return and we would resume. And sometimes with her resuming, she would give me instructions or the act or something would change. But I don't know if that was directly from him or her. But I know all of the communications were outside of an environment for me to see or hear. So I can't give you the real structure or means of where the directions came from.
Lauren, you were in the courtroom at the end of the day hearing all the testimony about these freak-offs. Was he directing porn? Or what was his role in your opinion?
I
mean, it's funny that this is brought up now because something that AUSA Slavic said yesterday was Mr. Combs, or the defendant, was not an amateur porn director. You know, but it was argued that it was his right to do this if he wanted to film it. He did not film every single freak-off, every single hotel night. But yeah, we heard a lot of this. We heard that sometimes he directed. You know, we heard sometimes Cassie or Jane appeared to enjoy it. We heard from third parties, and it's also interesting because Judge Subramanian specifically asked the government to bring case examples to sentencing, and I wrote it down, where person A transports person B to have sex with person C, because this is kind of rare. It's not, it's not super common. So, Slavic said, well, I don't have examples now, but yes, I will bring them, next week. So I think the fact that the government is essentially asking for, I think, close to 4 years on really what is a prostitution charge where the defendant or the convicted didn't have any type of financial gain is also really interesting. It's really strange. You don't see a lot of this here. I will say, I do think Judge Subramanian is under a lot of pressure just because of the media, and I hate to say it, but because Diddy's reputation is not great, and I think so many people who were not in the courtroom, and it wasn't televised, and they just kind of read headlines, they sit there and they're horrified. This man got away with so much. Well, guys, he really didn't. Again, like you said, if you were in the courtroom, that's not really how it went down. So I don't envy the judge in this situation, because I do think it's going to be difficult. However, if he does get anything more than 14 months time served, maybe let's say 6 months extra tops, I'll be shocked. I will be shocked.
Oh, we will find out. Lauren, thank you for your insights and your valuable time on this Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Katie's going to stick around. Coming up next, more VP.
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Like the video as you guys come in.
I think that what happens in those freak-offs is what happens. I think there's so much we just don't know. And those who are willing participants, okay, they're grown adults. Hopefully all of them were grown adults. But at the end of it, we saw too much. The freak-offs were a part of his abuse. They were a part of his grooming. Now, whether Cassie liked it sometimes and not sometimes, liked it sometimes and other times she did not, that's Cassie's prerogative. I think that was a little bit damning for the case. But the overall arching of this whole thing is that we keep forgetting this was not just about freak-offs being a tool for his abuse and his blackmailing and his coercion. And I think that's been lost a lot in this conversation. But to sum that up, as far as freak-offs and what do I think of all of this, I think it's a mess. And I think you're right. It's just very weird. I think we've seen too much. I think we don't want to know the intricacies of what goes on in people's bedrooms. But when you're using it in a power dynamic to control business, to manipulate other artists, rising artists, that's where the problem lies. That's where the RICO charge did not stand. But unfortunately, here we are. And I do believe this will end up being a slap on the wrist.
Here's more from the Punisher.
The furniture in the living room were all covered in sheets. In the proximity of the sofa and the chair, you can see that there were bowls of warm water with bottles of baby oil in it. And she explained that we were going to create this scene where I was going to put baby oil on myself. She was going to do the same. We may oil each other, and eventually her husband would come out and watch at some point. And I was specifically instructed that when her husband came out, to not look at him, don't talk to him, try my best to not acknowledge him. We're supposed to act like he's not even present.
Dennis, did you get the feeling that, listening to the testimony, that he was an unhinged, maniacal, just sort of self-absorbed, powerful person that is abusing that power, or a weirdo in the corner watching his lover have sex with other people?
Use the term weirdo. I use the term him being involved in a lifestyle. I'm not in that lifestyle. I don't know what goes on in that lifestyle. But if we poll 20 people that are in that lifestyle, they may have a different opinion on his behavior. I've never sat in a room watching someone make love to my woman. No one gets that pleasure. But I would say this. There has been a lot said about him and the alleged abuse of these two women, but he's charged with 2 man acts. He did not participate physically with these entertainers. There are 2 people that didn't get charged with the man acts, and they're witnesses against them. And they actually participated in the prostitution. He did. He was in the corner watching. Yeah, that's a problem.
This was testimony. Now, this is through AI because no cameras were in that courtroom, but this is the transcript of what she said on the witness stand, talking about the freak-offs from her perspective.
How much money did Sean pay to settle your lawsuit? $20 million. So would you give that money back if it meant you never had to have freak-offs? Objection.
It's overruled.
I'd give that money back if it meant I never had to have freakoffs. If never had to have freakoffs, I'd have agency and autonomy, and I would... Objection.
It's overruled.
You can continue, Ms. Ventura. I wouldn't have to work so hard to get it back. And when you say get it back, are you talking about the agency and autonomy that you mentioned? Yeah. Do you remember when defense counsel asked you yesterday if freakoffs were a special time that you cherished? Yeah. How would you describe the experience of an escort urinating in your mouth while you were on the floor? Objection.
Sustained.
How many times did Sean insist you have a freak-off when you still had a UTI? All the time.
Dot.
And did Sean beat you during freak-offs? Yes. Once or more than once? More than once. How did you feel during the freak-offs when Sean beat you? Worthless, just like dirt. Like I didn't matter to him. But that I was nothing. Like absolutely nothing. At the beginning of your relationship, were you open to freak-offs? I was open in the very beginning to trying it. Did defense counsel show you a number of messages that reflected some of that openness over the past 2 days? Yeah. Did that openness change? Over time, yeah. And after it changed, did you want to have freak-offs? I didn't. Did you feel that you could say no? No.
Alan, he wasn't charged with abusing Cassie. That elevator video had nothing to do with the charges against him. But as we talked about earlier, if he's ever going to come back, these are the things. This is the problem, right?
This is absolutely the problem, and even when your guest said, he believes that he's just a voyeur, it's not just that. I mean, this is a man that is literally saying, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, then X, Y, and Z will happen to you. That's past being a wannabe amateur porn producer, okay? That is an abuser. That is someone that is literally using his power. He's using sex. He's using these freak-offs and whatever else he's got up his sleeve, baby oil, what have you, prostitutes, what have you, to get what he wants in these scenarios. And while he might get a kick out of those types of videos, those videos were not just because Cassie enjoyed it all the time. I think that's the thing that we have to remember when we're talking about this. I think that trying to paint him as just some wannabe producer is making light of the severity of this situation. This was someone that drugged people with baby oils. This is someone that, threatened people if they didn't perform in his voyeurism. That is where this comes down to. This is not just about just the RICO trial. This is about his moral character. While I'm not judging him, he can do whatever he wants behind closed doors. But when you're doing it in an abusive, narcissistic, drug-fueled, unhinged manner, and it affects people's lives, that is the problem, period.
Dennis, is that a valid point that this was two-pronged? Yes, he had the predilection for the voyeurism, but then also he was abusive and off the rails.
Let's keep the record straight. He was never charged with drugging anyone. That is a mischaracterization of what happened in the courtroom. He did drugs. They did drugs, but he never drugged anyone. So let's, we're not going to, it was enough slander done in this case. Let's just focus on the behavior. The behavior, some of the things he did that Cassie testified to, problematic. However, she in 2018 got involved with him again while she was dating the trainer that he paid for. So she's a grown adult. She has to take some kind of responsibility. And I didn't read anywhere that she donated any of that money that she received from the Intercontinental or the 20.
Why should she have to donate any of that money? Did she say she was going to donate it? If you heard that she had to relocate her whole family, why should she have to donate any of that money? Some people stand with Cassie. Some people stand with Diddy. Here nor there, it was a toxic relationship, concerning relationship. And then you got to remember, he contacted Cassie's mom that if they didn't pay him XYZ money, they were going to release video of Cassie, which then is concerning for Cassie because people didn't know Cassie was going through this, or that's what she was a part of. And then she was experiencing health concerns. So there is a part of control. When she leaves, look what happened when she tried to get into the elevator. How many other times we didn't see her trying to leave, and that might not have been caught on camera, but we did catch something that was on camera, and it was at the hotel. I don't get why some people back what was transpiring. There's a situation where people can be controlled, especially if you're on substances. They were on substances. Like the video.
Well, let's leave it there. We don't want to get. It's Friday night. Let's just relax and have a good weekend. Maybe not a free coffee weekend, but just a good weekend. Dennis.
It's concerning to me why people are okay with what transpired. There were other people outside of Cassie that this happened to. Women thinking they're going to spend quality time with him, and the rooms are set up. And it's like, that's not what I want. That's not what I came here for. Well, the room is set up anyways. And they would realize, remember how one person pulled up to the hotel and the room was lit up and they knew that that's what was going to transpire when they thought that they were just going to spend quality time with him. It wasn't just Cassie that went through this. And check this. Would you want your mother going through this? No. Would you want your daughter going through this? No. Would you want your aunt going through this? No. It's a concerning, toxic relationship. And then this is the biggest thing. The payments came from, Cassie wasn't rich because Cassie couldn't even pay the $20K to Diddy. The mother and father had to take out a loan, and then he immediately gave that money back. Also, the mother had to give the money back. So there was constant times where there was threats that the videos were going to be released. Not only did Cassie, the other women experienced that. These videos are going to be released. Straighten up, or these videos are going to be released. We don't know what was said to her about, if you don't do XYZ. Okay, I'm not going to release this video. I'm not going to release this music. There was a lot of control. So concerning. Hello. Thanks for being here. Yeah, yesterday, Anonymous, YouTube kicked me out. I don't know. There was nothing wrong with the video. I didn't get any flags, but sometimes there's so many updates that's happening. It kicked me out yesterday. I just wanted you guys to know I was okay. So yeah. So that's the concern. Now people know he's off to the side directing what happens and how it happens. And then they walk out the room and leave. And then she's to state that this is her husband. What? And he's off in the corner pleasuring himself. Hello? And then sometimes Cassie would have to take the juices and rub it on him. So he was kind of a part of it, off to the side or asking for the juices to be rubbed on him. So he was a part of it. Like the video. Please don't forget to hit subscribe. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you. Still to come. Does Diddy have a good chance of getting out?
So let's see what they're going to say about him getting out.
And a prison, and that is a jury of 12 citizens. Right enough.
Hold on.
They acquitted him of the... Is Sean Combs' time behind bars coming to an end, or does he still have significant time to serve? We'll find out soon enough. His upcoming sentencing hearing will determine that. The government wants 4 years. His side wants time served. Here's Mark Agnifilo talking after the verdict. It's a great...
This is Diddy's lawyer. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Please hit the subscribe button. There's about 137 in the building. If you already hit subscribe, thank you. If you did not hit subscribe, please hit subscribe. Continue to hit the like. Thank you.
Victory for Sean Combs. It's a great victory for the jury system. You saw that the Southern District of New York prosecutors came at him with all that they had. They're not stopping, but one thing stands between all of us and a prison, and that is a jury of 12 citizens. And we had a wonderful jury. They listened to every word, and they got the situation right, or certainly enough. They acquitted him of the sex trafficking, which he was absolutely innocent of. They acquitted him of the racketeering conspiracy that he was absolutely innocent of, and all of the components to it. The kidnapping, he was innocent of that. The arson, he was innocent of that. The obstructing justice, he was innocent of that. And that is no longer just me saying that. That is the verdict of our jury. That's Mark Agnifilo. They did a great job.
So did the jury get it right, or was the jury concerned and trying to rush out of there for the holiday?
Defense did, along with Tenny Garagos and team, after or during that trial. And now we'll find out what happens at sentencing. Let's head to our next question. And that is, does Sean Diddy Combs have a good chance of getting out of prison with time served, which is what the defense is asking here. Here to help with our investigation, federal white-collar advisor and sentencing mitigation expert Sam Bangle, and still here, trial lawyer, former prosecutor Katie Fang. Katie, what's your take in terms of where the judge lands here? You've got the 4 on one side and time served on the other. Where do you think it's landing?
And never the twain shall meet is what the idea is probably going to be. Assuming the judge does not grant any motion for new trial or to vacate the jury's verdict. At this point, I do not believe that this judge, in light of how the jury returned its verdict, is going to give the defense what it's seeking, which is 14 months. To be clear, Sean Combs has been in custody for at least 13 months, so he gets the credit for that time served, and that's why it pretty much would be tantamount to him walking out of jail if he got those 14 months. There have been 2 attempts by the defense to be able to get him out of custody pending the sentencing, which is coming up on October 3rd. From pretty much all the indications right now, the government sentencing memorandum has not been released, so we don't really know what they're seeking, but we can assume that they're going to try to seek the maximum, which could be up to actually more than 4 years, could be up to almost 6 years and 3 months, or even 7 years. And so I think you have a pretty wide spread there for the judge to be able to use his judicial discretion to be able to sentence him accordingly.
Here's a bit of what the defense has articulated in filing. Lawyers urging the New York federal judge here to sentence him to no more than 14 months in prison for his conviction on 2 prostitution-related charges, meaning he'd go free almost immediately. The lawyers made their arguments in the written submission, basically saying, hey, Judge, you gotta work with us here. But the judge has already rejected this proposed $50 million bail package, which they wanted him to be out on bail during this process, saying he doesn't believe that the artist is close to being released. So that could be an indication that there's a long way to go here. Combs' celebrity status in the realms of music, fashion, spirits, media, and finance have been shattered, and that's punishment enough, according to his defense. Likely, Sam, it's going to be, like Katie said, somewhere in the middle there. What's his life look like with his celebrity status if he's doing time in a federal prison?
Let me know in the comments. Do you think he'll get 11 plus years, or do you think he'll get less than 11 years? Press 1 if you think he'll get 11 plus years. Press 2 if you think he'll get 11 and less than 11 years.
Is it not just the jail?
Well, first, let me say, and I agree with what Katie just said. I was contacted about 3 weeks ago by a former client who also happens to be the mother of 2 of Sean Combs' youngest children. And her question was, where do I recommend that he serves the sentence? What do I think is the best place? Miami had come up because of his residence. I suggested a few other places. So I do believe that somewhere in the defense's mind, they are planning for some amount of time for him to be spent in prison. The question comes down to, where will he serve it based upon the amount of time he has? Right now, at the Brooklyn MDC where he's serving, they're actually keeping people in custody there that have been sentenced. Even though a federal judge had asked that they don't do that, that sentenced inmates get designated and sent to federal prisons. If he is sentenced to any time, he has to serve 85% of the sentence. He is not entitled to any First Step Act time reductions because of the nature of his sentence. He'll go to a low-security facility, a Miami, a Danbury, a Terminal Island in Los Angeles. I don't think he'll have any problem there. It'll certainly be much better than where he currently is in Brooklyn.
Absolutely. A lot of stories, horror stories out of the Brooklyn facility. Katie, bottom line it for us. Does he deserve prison time?
He deserves the prison time. A jury of his peers returned a verdict accordingly, and if the sentencing guidelines are any indication, he's going to get more than the 14 months that's being sought and more than the 13 months that he's been in custody. I will also dispense with this idea. There has been a lot of chatter as to whether or not he's going to be pardoned by President Donald Trump. Just a few weeks ago, during some questioning on another news channel, he was asked, as in Trump was asked, if he was going to be pardoning Sean Combs, and he actually said, well, he used to say some nice stuff about me, but then during the election he said bad stuff, so I don't think so, versus statements he made about George Santos, who's in federal prison, and Donald Trump said, well, the guy's always been pretty consistent about saying nice stuff about me, so maybe I'll think about pardoning George Santos. So, I mean, look, I think that you're not going to see a pardon from Donald Trump, so they can probably put that to bed, but I will...
Yeah, and we remember what Gina had said in regards to the interview. Go listen to Tasha, go check out her videos and what Gina had to say. And then allegedly she tried to go back on to Tasha, allegedly and possibly allegedly change the narrative. So many women have spoke up. We can't ignore what those women have said. We can't ignore it. And then we all don't know what happened in the other relationships. You know what I'm saying? RIP to Kim Porter. She's not here to tell what she experienced. Some of the bodyguards have spoke out. So RIP to Kim Porter. But there's concerns there in regards to unhealthy relationships. Let's continue fair use reaction clip. And then you got to remember, wasn't Gina supposed to testify? And then she was MIA. And then once the jury started deliberating, then she resurfaced. Where'd they do that at? She was allegedly supposed to testify. She was MIA. Once the jury started deliberating, then she resurfaced. Come on. That was planned for her to speak up and do that small interview saying she's not scared. Like the video, fair use reaction clip.
Has a pretty good argument that Sean Combs has done well, quote unquote. I'll say that. I mean, jail is horrible for anybody, but in this instance, he has actually.
Once he's sentenced too, then those the civil suits are going to come out. And, you know, these civil suits, there needs to be proof. Police reports, hospital records, phone messages. There needs to be proof if these civil lawsuits are even going to get a chance. And we can't confirm or deny what's stated in those civil suits are accurate, but if there's no proof, they should be tossed out. Like the video, fair use.
Sobriety for the first time in 20-something years. Yeah. And he's also been running a program for other inmates, and so he's been doing about as well.
We gotta leave it there. Thank you both. Have a great weekend.
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. You guys are just now coming in. We're just giving you guys some updates on what's being talked about regards to Diddy. Do you think he's being treated fair, unfair? Let me know in the comments how you feel about what's happening. Like the video as you guys come in. Is he being treated fair? Is the judge fair? Let's continue.
To toss out his prostitution-related convictions. He now faces sentencing on the charges this Friday. Combs' attorneys tried to argue that the prosecution did not present enough factual evidence to prove Combs was transporting people for sex. But the judge denied the motion, saying that there was overwhelming testimony with Cassie Ventura and a woman identified as Jane. Combs' team has recommended 4 years of prison time, which would put him at home before Thanksgiving. He served 13 months so far. The prosecution is seeking an 11-year sentence. Diddy was acquitted of the most serious of the charges of sex trafficking and racketeering, conspiracy in July. Those charges could have put him behind bars for life. Instead, the jurors found him guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Terry Austin joins us now, host and legal analyst. Thank you so much for being with us. So sentencing is Friday. What factors will the judge likely be considering in determining sentencing with such a discrepancy at the request of the defense and prosecution?
Well, that's an excellent question. He's going to look at everything, including the probation department's report. That's the PSR, the report where the probation department looks at the level of the crime. It looks at also whether or not there's a criminal history. And the judge is going to review that and determine what to do. Now, the probation department recommended 7 years and 3 months as the maximum, and as a minimum 5 years and 10 months. So I do think that Judge Subaranian will look at that very serious. Now, the prosecution, as you mentioned, they're looking at 11 years and 3 months, the defense 14 months. The judge is going to consider all of that and probably come where, if I had to guess, somewhere in the middle. I don't think he is going to do the maximum of 11 years, just based on the fact that this is the first offense that we've seen by Sean Combs, his first conviction. But I do think he wants it to be a serious sentence. So I don't believe he's going to come out before Thanksgiving. So perhaps something like 3 to 5. And I'm also basing that on the bail argument. The judge took that very seriously and said that because of the violence, he did not think that Sean Combs should be released from jail before sentencing.
I'm curious, Terry, what arguments is the defense making for a reduced sentence based on the crime?
What they're trying to say is, look, he has been a model sentence in the prison. He's been a prisoner who has not been violent. He hasn't broken any rules or laws. He's been teaching courses. He's had a business course. And they've submitted letters from various prisoners that said he has helped them and has made them better people. So I do think they're trying to say he's reformed, and that what the prosecution is asking for is draconian, and that he's already served time, and that most people who are convicted under the Mann Act have not been this type of defendant, that he didn't participate, he wasn't directly involved, that he wasn't really sex trafficking people who were underage. So for all of those reasons, they're trying to argue that he is a slightly different defendant than most defendants who are convicted under the Mann Act.
All right, well, sentencing set for Friday. Terry Austin, thank you as always.
Thank you, Marnie.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe.
Like the video. Okay, you guys, I just wanted to do a general update in regards to what's going on with Diddy. Let me know in the comments how you feel about everything that's going on. We updated you in regards to what the document said. We did that we've been live an hour and 8 minutes. It was probably 15 minutes ago. We talked about the documents that was submitted by the judge. So if you want to rewind 30 minutes, you'll hear the documents that was presented by the court. Let me know in the comments, do you think he'll get 11 years plus? Press 1. Do you think he'll get under 11 years? Press 2. Or do you think they still may consider time served? And, we'll see what happens. Many people feel that the judge has denied a lot of stuff. He's denied the acquittal. He's denied retrial. He's saying no to no to no to no to a lot of different things. We don't know what his attire will be as far as his outfit, but stand in front of the judge this Friday. Allegedly is stating 10 a.m. So you guys let me know what's going to transpire. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarships and research. Fair use is used permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged opinion and for entertainment purposes only. Focus on healthy, safe relationships. Be around people that's loving, kind, and respectful. Yeah, let me know what's going to happen. I'm sure the courtroom is going to be very, very busy on Friday. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of reporters. We're not going to be sure who will be able to get inside. I'm sure it's going to be extremely packed. Are you guys surprised that the judge said no to the acquittal and no in regards to a new trial? But you guys have to remember, there are law pages that talk about the document, and there's a lot of things that's been redacted, blacked out. So the judge sees everything, hears everything. Did the jury make the right decision? Or was the jury rushed because they wanted to have their holiday? Certain things was repetitive. Should had it been, we're definitely going to go past the holiday. For you guys to enjoy your time, but you're going to have to come back next week to make a decision. Should the jury have made a decision the week before, not the week of, regarding the holiday? Was that the deciding factor? Remember, there was an alleged juror that was having a hard time understanding the instructions, allegedly, or following the instructions, allegedly. Was the jurors wanting to get out of there and they were just over it? Should they have said, we will definitely go past the holiday to give the jurors a break and then we will deliberate? Or should it had happened a week before the holiday? Many people feel, was it rushed? Did they make a right decision? Are you guys surprised that it was just those two charges? Are you guys surprised that it was just those two charges? Let me see. Like the video as you guys come in. Hold on 1 second. I might do this one so you guys can hear what was going on. Has he been treated fairly? That's the other question.
Behind bars, and his lawyers want him sentenced to just 14 months, which would mean immediate release. Scripps News national correspondent Alex Miller is live in New York now with us with the latest. So Alex, what was his demeanor like today?
Well, he was in a great mood today as he entered the courtroom. The hearing lasted a little bit over an hour, but when he came in in a tan jumpsuit, despite the fact that his team got a court order that was supposed to allow him to wear his own clothes. But he came in this tan jumpsuit, full beard and hair, both gray, but a big smile. Happy to see his family members, his twin daughters in the courtroom, as well as some of his other children there. He had a lot of support there, and safe to say that's the last time we saw him, he was much more nervous as he awaited that verdict. This time he looked like there was a huge weight off his shoulders.
And so what did his lawyers say during this appearance?
So this is the last appearance that we have before his sentencing next Friday. And what they're trying to do is essentially get the entire case thrown out to a degree. Remember, he was acquitted on the most serious charges that could have seen life in prison. This RICO charge, which is racketeering, but also these sex trafficking charges. And that's really important because essentially what his team argued is that because he was found not guilty of sex trafficking, the convictions that he does have are almost rendered moot. What he was convicted of was transportation to engage in for both Cassie Ventura and for Jane, a woman whose name we do not know. But according to his team, he was convicted under what's called the Mann Act, which is a 1910 act that they say is racist, that has to do with trying to prevent sex trafficking from occurring. But typically, the Mann Act is not really enforced by the Department of Justice unless done by an actual commercial business or with the process of sex trafficking. And because of that, he's not a convicted sex trafficker. They're essentially saying that this is not needed any longer. And they also talk under this Mann Act that they say that the male escorts traveled there willingly, that they were hired through a professional company. Remember, this wasn't some closed door deal. They often called some of these dance companies that would
bring over these men who were really just dancers that participated in these sex acts with Cassie Ventura and with Jane. And so under this, they say a lot of this has to do with also the fact that he videotaped most of these sexual acts. And this is where the First Amendment comes into play, something that we didn't think we were going to see discussed about Maritza. They say they frame him as a voyeur, saying that really he is an amateur film porn producer and an amateur porn consumer, and that he videotaped and participated in these events through filming them so that he could take these videos home and later watch them. They used examples, things like the fact that these women wore costumes, there was mood lighting, that he orchestrated and often told them exactly how to move during these acts, and they essentially said what he was doing was filming pornography for his own personal use. And so they say that this is First Amendment protection, and that because, again, of these other charges that he was acquitted of, that he no longer needs to answer for this transportation to engage in prostitution, because, again, they say that it wasn't actually prostitution.
I have a lot of questions about that, and I'm not a lawyer, so I will leave it to the legal analysts. But I know that his lawyers want him sentenced to just 14 months, but how much time could he face here?
Yeah, Maritza, I was vigorously taking notes. It was very difficult to follow some of the statutes and their arguments that they were making over the course of the hour, but the judge was firing questions at both of these attorneys over the course. And by the way, it was notable, Maureen Comey, who was the lead prosecutor on this case, has been fired, so it was left up to her team to answer all of these questions. So it was interesting to watch them try to pick up the pieces in a way without her being there. Obviously, she was the big presence during much of the trial. Now, he is facing several years in prison. He got away with, or he escaped that potential lifetime charge by being acquitted of the RICO and the sex trafficking charges, but he faces 10 years in prison for each of the transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, as you said, his team wants him to get just 14 months. He's been in there since last September, so by the time he gets his sentence next week, he'll be in there for 13 months, they say, with good time, good credit, good behavior, rather, and time served. He would be out immediately. His team, or the government rather.
So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for supporting the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe. Everyone, focus on healthy, safe relationships. Be around people that's loving, kind, and respectful. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, commas, news reporting, teaching, scholarships and research. Fair use is used permitted by a copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged, in our opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. Thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in. Continue to hit the like button. There's about 101 in the building. If you already hit like, thank you. If you already hit subscribe, thank you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We're trying to hit 50K by next month. So if all 127 hit subscribe, today will be a great day. It's free to hit the subscribe button. Super chats are welcome. Memberships are over there. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a blessed day. Goodbye.
Wants to see him in prison for several years. They have not put out their